What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Diggers podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. It is Friday. That is Michelle Magdziuk. Michelle, how many times have we said that the 49ers are a nonstop content factory? Here we are on a Friday. It's Wild Card weekend. The Niners aren't playing. We're sitting here like not much to do. And then, boom, 15 minutes before we hit the air, we get news that Adam Peters is leaving for Washington.
And honestly, I'm more interested in the all-pro team. Like, that was the news that interested me more. But Adam Peters, I told you straight up, I was like, well, I know very little about him. I'm also extremely confused by the whole situation because the Commanders never, as far as I've seen, have not come out to say they fired Martin Mayhew at GM. So now they just have two GMs. I don't really understand what's happening.
Well, one of the insiders that put a tweet out about it said that he was hired to be the head of football operations. And then they edited the tweet to say he's been hired to be the GM. I don't know what position Adam Peters just got, but apparently he's going to be doing something important in Washington. There are a lot of little tentacles to this story that I want to get to. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the all-pro teams as well. As you said, we have best bets for Wild Card weekend. It is a full boat on the program today. Before we get to all of that, though, I just want to give a shout out to Community Tree Service LLC, our YouTube channel partner here on the program, as some people say. If you have a yard and you need something done in your yard, hit up Community Tree Service. They do it all. Tree trimming, land clearing, hazard tree removal, home fire hardening, debris removal from the Central Coast up to the Bay Area. They have you covered. And the best part, estimates are free. So give them a call, 831-763-2391. Email estimating at cts831.com or visit their website at communitytree.com to schedule an appointment. Tell them we sent you and that you're a Niner fan. You get $200 off of your quote. If you root for somebody else, they're going to charge you $200 more. So maybe, lie just for a day. Community Tree Service is licensed by the California State License Board. License number 1100816. Woo! All right, let's dive into the Adam Peters news. I think I have a different reaction than most people, Michelle. We don't know how important Adam Peters was. I'm not saying he wasn't important because he's gone. I'm saying I have no idea, and neither do you. Neither do any of us. We're talking about the assistant general manager. I don't know how important he was, so I don't really know how to feel right now.
Yeah, I have really not much to add to this. I mean, it's never a good thing to lose someone, I feel like, especially if another team values what he's been doing and they feel he deserves to be promoted. That means they must feel like he's done a really good job, right? Or else they would not want to give this guy a higher position. So that means that a talented person from the 49ers management team is leaving. That's never a good thing, but it doesn't mean his shoes can't be filled. We don't know exactly what he's done or not done. And the whole thing is just like more confusing to me on the Commander side. I don't really get what they're doing. Also, never use the word tentacles again, because that was disgusting.
Why? What did you mean? There are tentacles.
That was just so weird. It was just very weird, and I did not like it. It was gross.
You didn't like the little hand motion that I did with it too, huh?
The whole thing was just icky. It was icky.
So there's a lot here to unpack because the thinking in San Francisco had been for years that John Lynch was going to return to TV and that Adam Peters was going to just step up and take the job. And we even saw John Lynch get an extension this year, and they gave him another title. It was like head of football operations, president of football operations, whatever it was. And so that was sort of the thinking, was that they would promote John Lynch to this title. They would make Adam Peters the GM. And even if Lynch did stay on, that's how they would sort of coexist. But then we got news of the John Lynch contract extension. We got news a month later that he got the new puffy title. And then there was nothing. Like, they could have promoted Adam Peters at that point and made him the general manager at that point. And they didn't. And it seems weird to me that that didn't happen. What is the point of giving John Lynch this new frou-frou title if there are no ripple effects down the line? So I almost wonder if something changed. Oh, it appears we lost Michelle. Maybe she'll hop back in a second. I almost wonder if something changed with Adam Peters. What was that the plan? And then it somehow became not the plan. I don't know. But it seems weird that John Lynch would get this new title and then nothing else would happen in the scouting department. There would be no ripples. Michelle is back. Michelle, I lost you.
Yeah, my electricity went out. It is insanely windy in Houston.
Whoa.
I'm on my personal hotspot now. We'll see how well this works. But it keeps flickering my electricity, so I don't want to stay on my current Wi-Fi.
Oh boy. All right. Well, thank you for that. Antonio, YouTube channel member, shout out to you, says people freaking out over Adam Peters have no idea how scouting works. The scouts gave Peters, Lynch, and Shanahan the same exact players to look at. They aren't exactly doing the scouting. The scouts are. Well, the scouts are a huge part of it. Yes, Antonio, I would agree with you. But also, like, Peters, I'm sure, has some scouting experience in his history. Like, I don't want to totally eliminate it, his importance, because he takes the scouting reports and goes through them and then decides which players they want. So it's not like he's just listening to everything that scouts say and doing no work. Let's not get it twisted.
You guys see my electricity freaking out behind me?
Crazy.
Yeah, I know it is pretty wild here right now. Now you see me without my ring light, and I don't like it personally. But we really just don't know enough. But it is kind of crazy to say that he doesn't matter, right? If a team is hiring him to be their GM, how much focus do we put on GM hires? I mean, it's huge. They're so important. So clearly, there's something there with the scouting and how important they are to finding these talented players and bringing in the right players and hiring or drafting the correct prospects. It's not just all the scouts doing everything.
I totally agree with you. I'm fascinated by what is occurring at your house right now. Please, I hope you're safe and everybody's safe there. And if you need to go, feel free. I can handle it. Especially
it's so funny because it's so sunny and looks beautiful outside. It's just the wind.
Weird. Antonio's a YouTube channel member, by the way. If you want to become a YouTube channel member, it's less than $3 a month. You get custom emojis, you get membership badges, and you get priority comment response. If you pay an extra $1 a month, you'll get access to 49ers in 5 the second it's done instead of having to wait till the next morning. That's our daily 49ers news update that you get every weekday morning. So please do. I would greatly appreciate it. Yes, so the Adam Peters thing is gone. A lot of people have been talking about, as Shades by Chardal says, Tariq Ahmad, who is the director of college scouting for the 49ers. I think today's a great day for Tariq Ahmad because either he leaves with Adam Peters, which is something we don't know. We don't know who Peters is going to take with him, but either he leaves with Adam Peters and gets a promotion, or he stays with the 49ers, becomes the new number 2 behind John Lynch, and gets a promotion. That's a pretty good position to be in.
I think that's probably the biggest worry right now is that Adam Peters takes a bunch of people, a bunch of talented people in the offices that could affect the 49ers. But at the same time, I just don't really care right now, right? We're headed into the playoffs. The assistant GM does not matter in terms of this playoff run. Just win,
right.
Let's win the Super Bowl, and then we can worry about how this affects the draft after that.
100%. You're right that they have bigger fish to fry right now. I agree. And that's clearly the number one goal for the 49ers. And that was something we were going to talk about, sort of how locked in they are and all that stuff. And we'll get to that. But I have one more point to make on this. And it's something that I don't think people necessarily know. And again, none of this is to minimize Adam Peters. He could be the greatest scout and GM. I don't know. But I will just say this. This is what I have learned in my 15 years in the sports media business. A lot of the guys that get hyped, particularly in roles like this, head coaching roles, front office roles, they get hyped because they get pushed by insiders in the business. And the reason they get pushed by insiders in the business is because they have been sources for those insiders for a very long time. So basically, it goes like this, right? Insiders form relationships with people working inside organizations. Those people feed the insiders stories and information over the years for a long period of time. And then when it becomes time for the hiring cycles, the insiders can throw out some tweets and talk about it on interviews and say, hey, you know who's getting a lot of buzz in league circles? Adam Peters or Josh McDaniels. There was so much buzz for Josh McDaniels. How was he as a head coach? He was buns. Okay. So, and again, I'm not saying that Adam Peters isn't good at his job. All I'm saying is the buzz, like Adam Peters is so good and so valuable. All that's coming from is the insiders, is the media. And so a lot of times I'm saying there's a reason that stuff happens. I'm not saying it's what's happening here. I'm just throwing it out there so people know.
So you're saying it's all about playing the game, and it's not so much about the talent of where you are. That's in all business aspects, right? I mean, how much of it is making those connections with your bosses or your boss's bosses? Like, so much of everything comes down to human connections, and it's just the way life works. And maybe it's not fair, but the networking, that's why it's so key.
It's not what you know, as they say, it's who you know.
It's who you know.
And it just goes to show, the length of this era that we're in. This is now the 7th year of Kyle Shanahan. Now that Pete Carroll has been fired by the Seahawks, and yes, he was fired. Nobody wants to say it. It wasn't mutual. They didn't want him to be the coach anymore. If he didn't agree to it, quote unquote, he'd still be gone. He was canned.
Which is stupid, by the way, by the Seahawks.
Well, whatever. It is what it is with them. My point is, Shanahan and McVay are now the longest tenured coaches in the NFC. When the 49ers started this regime, there were 4 people. It was Kyle Shanahan, it was John Lynch, it was Adam Peters, and it was Martin Mayhew. And the thinking was Mayhew, specifically because he had been a GM before, and Peters were experienced in the front office, and they could sort of help John Lynch, who had never done it before. That was sort of the thinking. Well, guess what? Now Martin Mayhew is gone, obviously. Adam Peters is gone. John Lynch is not gone, and Kyle Shanahan are not gone. But we've seen so many executives and coaches from this Shanahan regime spread their tentacles around the NFL that it just goes to show how long they've been there.
I do want to say I heard on yesterday's show, Levin and you talking about maybe Martin Mayhew would come back and be the assistant GM. Maybe, but I mean, his picks with the Commanders have been pretty brutal, especially those first rounders. Emmanuel Forbes this year is like the worst pick ever. You took a 160-pound corner and you were like, yeah, we'll put him out in the field and cover these like great wide receivers. He got murdered all year long, absolutely slaughtered because he's smaller than me.
So we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know first of all, Mayhew may stay in Washington. We have no idea. We don't know what the ripple effects are going to be with this on the 49ers, whether Tariq Ahmad will get promoted. We have no idea how any of that's going to work. But as you said, Michelle, we have bigger fish to fry, okay? Yes. Because the 49ers are in the playoffs and they are loaded up. They are locked and loaded and ready. And I loved some of the things that we were hearing from the Niners yesterday at the podium, one of which came from George Kittle, who basically, like, he laid it out yesterday, like kind of no ifs, ands, or buts about it. These guys are locked in. Here's Kittle.
We have great weapons. I think everyone's playing at a really high level, and like everyone is very dialed into the sense of urgency. Like you feel that in the building. Like everyone just has this unique focus. And I know one thing like I respect about our team is I look around the league and like I see other locker rooms after games and people, a lot of music, cheering and all that stuff after games, which I totally respect and I love that energy. Ours just kind of feels like, hey, we won. What's the next week? What is the next job? What is the next mission? What is the next thing that we're going to attack? And I feel like that's just a sense of urgency. Like you want to enjoy things in like that 24-hour rule, but at the same time, like our guys are flushing it, moving on, we're going to the next one. I just really respect that about this team. And I don't know if it's on purpose, but it's just kind of the energy that you feel within the locker room.
Yeah, George, they are so locked in and ready to go. I just want to see them on the field. Like, I can't wait.
Yeah, I love that out of George Kittle. Also, he was wearing an homage shirt. Shout out. Love that. I have the same shirt as George Kittle. Are you kidding me? We wear the same thing and we have probably the same length hair. Like are George Kittle and I twins?
Yeah, I think if anybody saw you two side by side, they wouldn't be able to tell you apart.
No difference whatsoever. No, I do love the locked in focus. I do love the whole mentality of we've been there before, like we don't need to like go crazy in the locker room. Nothing to take away though from those younger teams that are so excited. Like with the Texans getting into the playoffs. Yes, you freak out. Come on. Like, love that. Love to see that. But for this team, that wouldn't make sense. They are like laser focused as they should be, because this is a team that is Super Bowl bound and Super Bowl win or bust. It's not even just get to the Super Bowl. Yep. It is you win this Super Bowl or you had a busted season. Those are the expectations right now for this team. So I love that they are laser focused. I love that they're not just super pumped about getting the number 1 seed and acting like that's some feat right there for them. Yeah, great. You did the first step, what you're supposed to do, get the number 1 seed, get that bye. Now keep checking off everything else you're supposed to do.
And I love hearing that because I think they will. Fred Warner yesterday talked about the scars of the playoff loss and how he can still picture the confetti falling down in Philadelphia and picture the Eagles in their shirts, the conference champion shirts, and see all that. And he talked about the desire of wanting to get back to that moment. They have so many guys that have that hunger and that fire in their belly that I think it's going to serve them well. And in terms of playoff experience, God, you don't get more playoff experience in this friggin' 49ers roster.
It's literally crazy. They're 2 games away from that, 2 wins away from that
2
feeling,
home
right?
wins.
And the first win, I mean, we'll get into all that, should be pretty easy, no matter who it is. So it's really, there's just that 1 game away where it really feels like where they can make up for what happened last year when we all felt so defeated. I mean, it was just one of the worst feelings watching a game, knowing there's 0 chance to win this game once Brock Purdy went down and they just didn't have any quarterback, even when Josh Johnson was out there. I mean, it was just miserable. But I'm so excited to get to see this team at full strength, just to see what they can do in this postseason.
If they come out like they came out of the bye, it's going to be a hell of a ride. Antonio says Kittle will be back with a vengeance. You might remember he was in the Super Bowl on the sidelines saying, I will be back. And hopefully he will be. Mark says we should score 50 next week with all the rest that they have. They absolutely do have a ton of rest. Fred Warner was apparently talking trash to Brock Purdy in practice yesterday. Like, oh, Brock, I don't know. You've been off for a little while. I like hearing that, but apparently he was doing good. So we'll see how the Niners come out. But the other little bit of news that broke before the show, the All-Pro teams are out. The official All-Pro teams, not the weird NFLPA All-Pros that no one cares about, and I didn't even realize was a thing that came out a couple days ago. The actual All-Pro teams are out. The 49ers have 5 first-team All-Pros. I don't care about second-team All-Pros. The point of the All-Pro team is that they pick 1 or 2 people from each position that are the best in the league. It is the more prestigious award than the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl is a joke. Everybody gets into the Pro Bowl. The All-Pro separates the men from the boys, so to speak, and the Niners have 5 first-team All-Pros.
It is pretty crazy that you can get second-team All-Pro, and nobody's going to remember that a few years from now. Nobody cares about your second-team All-Pro like awards or whatever they're called, votes. But first-team All-Pro, do you know that there was only 3 players that received unanimous votes at their position for All-Pro?
I did not.
So it was Christian McCaffrey, Fred Warner, and Tyreek Hill. So the 49ers had 2 of the 3 unanimous players for first team All-Pro.
It just goes to show how stacked this freaking roster is and how many guys they've had that have played well. By the way, the first team All-Pros, I don't think I mentioned this, so shame on me. I should actually mention who they are. Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Juszczyk, George Kittle, Trent Williams, and Fred Warner were the first team All-Pros. The second team All-Pros were Brandon Ayuk and Mooney Ward, which I feel bad for Mooney Ward because he's played really well this year. But when you see that the first team All-Pros were Sauce Gardner and Deron Bland, you kind of understand why Mooney is second team.
I will ask, I didn't know. So in the tweet I saw, Brandon Ayuk and Mike Evans had the asterisk next to their names for second team. What does that mean? Because the first 2 players did not on the second team.
Oh,
so
I don't know.
What does the asterisk mean?
I have no idea.
Because it couldn't be like replacements. It's not like the Pro Bowl where you have to play anything. Or so I didn't know what the asterisk meant.
There is no like game that has to be played so that you don't have to worry about injury or anything like that. I have no idea. I'll try to find out. But yeah, those are the All-Pros for the 49ers. It's absurd to have that many. Think about it. This team has 5 guys that the league or the writers, are saying are undisputed best at their position. That is crazy to me. That does not happen very often. And it's a testament to, since we talked about it before, Adam Peters and John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and the whole team with the 49ers. But damn, that is impressive. That is one of the most talented 49ers teams of my now 39 years on this planet.
So we got some answers, and I knew we would. So the asterisk means tied in voting. So I think there was 4 wide receivers listed as second team, only supposed to be 3, but because Mike Evans and Brandon Ayuk tied, they both get into that last spot there for second team All-Pro. Thank you to Glass City for letting us know the reasoning.
Yeah, love the listeners. That's why we have the best listeners on the planet. Thank you very much. I kind of like, you know what? It's going to be just that little tweak. Brandon Ayuk didn't get the Pro Bowl. Brandon Ayuk didn't get first team All-Pro. He's going to have a little chip on the shoulder. Same with Mooney Ward going into the, you know what? Any extra little piece of motivation that the 49ers could have going into the divisional round, I'm all for.
Yeah, let's chat about this divisional round. Can we get into that about the potential opponents that they could be playing?
Grabbing the steering wheel of the show and jerking us over to the right side of the road.
I'm so excited for this weekend full of games. Like, I think this slate of games is wonderful. I am extremely excited. I wish the weather was a little bit better for some of these AFC games, but I'm just so excited. And to look at the options here for the 49ers, it's just weird that they're so the only 2 teams they cannot possibly face, right, in the divisional round are the Cowboys and the Lions. So anybody else, though, they could face. It just depends on how these games go. So it could be the Buccaneers, the Eagles, the Rams, or the Packers. It's kind of crazy that the 49ers probably best bet, probably what you're rooting for, is that for the Cowboys and the Lions to win the number 2 and number 3 seed, which you would never be typically rooting for that. But in that case, they would face the winner of the Eagles or the Buccaneers. And I think by far those 2 are the weakest teams among the 4 of the Rams, Packers, Eagles, and Buccaneers.
I would agree with you. I think that's 100% accurate. Every time I look at the playoffs, I'm like, I want this team to win and this team and this team. So the 49ers play him. And then 2 hours later, I'm like, no, I want this team to win and this team. So then the 49ers play him. Like, I think the Niners are going to kick the hell out of anybody they play next week, but who I want them to play specifically changes like hour to hour for me.
Yeah, it's so these are the scenarios. I'm sure a lot of you know, but just in case you don't. So if the Cowboys and Lions win, like I brought up, the 49ers will face the winner of the Buccaneers, Eagles. Love that for them. Yes. If the Rams win and the Packers lose, they will face the Rams. I think that's probably the worst case scenario, but still the 49ers should be able to handle their business. If the Packers win, they will face the Packers no matter what. Doesn't matter what else happens. Now the Packers face the Cowboys. What are your thoughts on that game? Do you even give the Packers a shot in Dallas?
I give him a shot because Jordan Love is like, I think he's really good. You know, he's got like, when you've got a quarterback that can make otherworldly type throws and plays, you can beat anybody if that guy goes God mode. The problem is the Packers defense is awful. Like, I don't know that I literally checked before we went on the air. I was like, can I bet on Dallas not punting in the game? You can't, unfortunately. Like, I think the Cowboys are going to score 40 on them, especially because Dallas is at home. That's part of it too. So while I do think the Packers, it's not entirely out of the question that they win or at least put up a good fight, I just don't know that Jordan Love is going to be able to be that good for that long against that defense in order to keep up with Dak and the Cowboys offense.
It is kind of crazy that Jordan Love is the second highest pass touchdown guy in the league this year, behind Dak Prescott. So we have the top 2 passing touchdown leaders in the NFL playing this game. Who would have thunk with Jordan Love? And it doesn't feel that way, right? Like with Dak Prescott, you're like, yeah, he killed it. Jordan Love, he had a slow start. The first half of the year was kind of miserable for him. He was getting touchdowns to begin the year, but it just they were just kind of gross. But he's definitely coming to his own. I have to give him credit for that. He's playing with all these youngins. I mean, pretty much, I think all but 1 touchdown of his this year went to a player that's in his first or second year in the NFL. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, obviously broke a record for that because that's never that is such a crazy stat. They're so incredibly young. So I actually do take it back. I don't think the best case scenario for the 49ers is that the Cowboys and Lions both win. I do think the Cowboys losing to the Packers would be by far the best case scenario, right? Because you knock out the Cowboys, that would be awesome. And then the 49ers play the Packers. And when it comes to the Packers or the Eagles, I would still much rather play the Packers than the Eagles.
Yeah, because the Eagles have a better roster than the Packers. But I did see this, actually, Michelle, just as we were talking here, I was, scanning Twitter, and I see this from our friend Chase Sr., who made an interesting little observation that I'm pulling up on the screen. AJ Brown has apparently scrubbed his Instagram of all Eagles related posts.
So dramatic.
I don't know what is going on with the Eagles, but clearly something is funky in Philly. Like,
you know what I said? You know what I said earlier today on my Locked On podcast for our fantasy podcast, that we haven't gotten the results back from AJ Brown's MRI. It's because it showed a bruised ego and no injury whatsoever. He went down after fumbling and he acted like it was the biggest injury of his entire life. And then he was just fine afterwards. And he was just in street clothes and like, oh, what is this silence with this injury? There's nothing that's come out about what this injury is. He's supposed to do an MRI, but where is the results? Like, what is it? And I will apologize if it comes out that he tore something or something happened, but it just seemed like a super fake injury in my mind. I don't know. Right away, it seemed really like, okay, you fumbled the ball and you're embarrassed. And that's what it come down to. And he's clearly going through something with this team. This team is in shambles. The Eagles are in shambles.
And I'll say this too. Nick Bosa said after the 49ers kicked their ass, he said, I hope everybody watched the film because we put out the blueprint on how to beat this team. And they have gone in the toilet since then. I think the only game they won was against the Giants. Like, they have just gotten destroyed. So something is funky with Philly. Plus, Jalen Hurts' finger is mangled. We all saw that pop out of place. That's really gross.
That was a kind of like, for Jalen Hurts, just have you ever seen someone with their finger just sideways and just stand there like, hey guy? He seems so annoyed. He just seemed annoyed. He wasn't in any pain. He was just like, yeah, my finger is totally crooked. Like, can we fix this? Now it turned out to just be not just, I mean, if my middle finger got dislocated, I would be screaming at the top of my lungs, crying hysterically and out for the next, 6 months. But he was just fine. It did look like a terrible break, but I guess just a dislocation.
Football players are so weird. They're just like, yeah, let me just pop it back in real quick. And I'm like, what? My bone is out of place. Okay. Yeah. Shades by Chardall points out he hasn't thrown a ball all week. Jalen Hurts said it's progressing, but he literally hasn't been throwing a football. And here's what I wonder, Michelle, because it's a finger injury. He's probably going to be in the shotgun most of the time anyway, because, that's generally where they operate. But when you have to take the snap under center and you've got a finger injury, that hurts. Right. What's the one play they do under center? Is the tush push affected by this? Maybe he's just going to gut it out. Who knows? But when your quarterback has a messed up finger, and I think it's on his throwing hand too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on his throwing hand. Middle finger.
That ain't great. Like, that's not what the Eagles needed right now. Now, I will say Baker Mayfield's also been banged up, so both quarterbacks in this game are hurt. But vibe check right now on Philly, not good.
Yeah, the Eagles go into this game as 3-point favorites. I'm shocked because they're on the road. I think the only thing that could keep the Buccaneers not from both defenses struggle, right? Especially through the air, but the Eagles defense is especially terrible. I do think the Buccaneers defense is better. They're more bend, don't break. They have guys that can make big plays. They have special players on defense. And so I think the Buccaneers defense will do what they have to. Baker Mayfield needs to just not fall on his face. And I love Baker Mayfield. Name my dog after him. Love him. But do I have confidence he will not fall flat on his face in the playoffs on primetime? No, not at all. But with this ankle, we'll see. I do think, though, the Buccaneers end up winning. I would take the Buccaneers money line in this game.
I would take give me the points. I'm getting points if I'm.
Yeah, but you make more money. If
right.
The Buccaneers money line. Well,
I would do both. Why not?
Do they let you do both? That would seem weird.
Not in a parlay, but just make two separate bets.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Brisbee Life watching on Twitch. Shout out to everybody on Twitch. I love you. He says Eagles in shambles, Jaguars out, Pete Carroll fired. The Niners' wake of devastation has been impressive. It absolutely has been impressive. So I would take the Bucs in that game. I would take the points. I mean, think about it. You've got the Buccaneers who won the worst division in football. Like, it's a pathetic division. They won a division with a 9-8 record. They're going into a game against a team that's 11-6 that was in the 1 seed for much of the season. And everybody is like, I think the Buccaneers might win. Like, they're giving the Bucs a legit shot, which just tells you how bad things have gotten in Philly.
So you can say the Buccaneers are only 9-8, but they won 5 of the last 6 games. At one point in the season, they had a 2-7 record, or whatever that comes. Yeah, 2-7 record. So
Jeez.
lately, they've been winning. And besides this last game against the Buccaneers or against the Panthers, like
Panthers, yeah.
they Baker Mayfield has been doing his thing as well. So I really like they have him his projections right now are 1.5 passing touchdowns, 236.5 passing yards. I like those over for Baker Mayfield both of them. My biggest concern is the ankle injury, and hopefully that's okay. But they've been rolling, winning 5 of the last 6 games, while the Eagles have lost 5 of the last 6. I think I think this line should be swapped. I think the Buccaneers should be 3-point favorites and the Eagles should be 3-point underdogs, with them being on the road. If this was in Philadelphia, yeah, sure. But with it being in Tampa Bay, this spread is confusing to me.
One more thing I'm going to say now before the game takes place. If the Eagles lose, don't put it past them to fire Nick Sirianni. I think there's a chance Nick Sirianni could get canned, especially with
I think that would be a mistake.
With the way things have gone, with the way there was a report earlier this year that they were the most miserable 10-1 team in the league, with the way they have gone in the toilet, and the fact that you've got somebody like a Bill Belichick out there right now as a coaching free agent. Look, it's one thing to fire Nick Sirianni and you'd be like, he just made the Super Bowl. What the hell? But if you fire Nick Sirianni to bring in the greatest football coach of all time, you kind of understand it, don't you?
No, I wouldn't like Bill Belichick there. I think that'd be great. I would rather Pete Carroll there.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying I don't put it past him to fire Sirianni.
They need a new offensive coordinator. They lost both their OC and DC, and clearly those were. I mean, Shane Steichen is a good coach. Like, if they made the playoffs, if the Colts ended up beating the Texans, he probably wins Coach of the Year or is right there in the votes. Unfortunately, he lost to D'Amico Ryans, right? He also, he brought the Texans to the playoffs. So there's so many deserving coaches this year. Really a lot of teams that outproduce what they're supposed to do in terms of expectations coming into the season. But and then also Gannon, what's his first name?
Jonathan.
Jonathan Gannon. He seemed like a weirdo going into this job, right? Like it seemed like a weird hiring. He seemed like a weirdo. And the Cardinals did have a bad record, but it seemed like he did a pretty good job with that team and that roster. So they lost 2 really good pieces. They need to fix that. And it's going to come down to what Jalen Hurts feels with Nick Sirianni. I feel like maybe Jalen Hurts looks miserable too. Like out there, he just looks miserable. So weird. There's something going on with this team.
Yes, 100%. It's not good right now. And look, maybe they put it behind them and everybody, buckles in and straps in and focuses up. We'll see. But I don't like what's going on with Philly. I feel like we touched on Dallas, Green Bay a little. Is there anything else about that game you want to talk about?
No, I think Dak has an amazing game.
Okay.
I think he goes off, but that's really it. Do you think they cover? They're 7.5-point favorites, yes. The Cowboys.
Yeah,
I think they cover.
Destroy them. And then last game in the NFC before we look at the AFC, Rams in Detroit to take on the Lions, the Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff game. Like you said, the 49ers cannot play the Lions in the next round. What do you think is going to happen, and what do you think is the best outcome for the 49ers?
Well, the Lions beat the Rams, right? Because we don't want the Rams as a possibility to play the 49ers. I think that's the one team that could give them a headache in this divisional round, just because they're so familiar. Playing a divisional opponent is never fun. They're too familiar. Anything could happen. I don't want that route. Also, I always love the underdog, and I know the Lions are 3-point favorites, but I feel like the Lions going into this game, they feel like underdogs, right? Everyone's like, Matthew Stafford's coming back to Detroit and focusing so much on the Matthew Stafford side. Well, Jared Goff's like, hey, I'm the dude that was thrown away for nothing. Like, I was expected to be nothing in this league anymore. I was thrown away for they just needed to get rid of my contract. It's not even like the Lions necessarily were like, ooh, yay, Jared Goff, They just put him in the trade for free, basically. So I think Jared Goff is going to have a huge chip on his shoulder in this game. I would like to see the Lions win this game for sure. Rooting for the Lions hard. It all just comes down to how bad the Lions secondary plays and how on Matthew Stafford is, right? We know how inconsistent Matthew Stafford can be. He can be unstoppable. Like every pass is perfection. He could put up 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. That is totally in the range of possibilities. He could also throw 3 picks. That's also in his range of possibilities. So it just comes out to be Stafford on, and hopefully Sam Laporta plays for the Titans or at tight end for the Lions. That I think would be a huge loss if he can't go.
Heineman on Twitch says over 50 points. That was my best bet from this game, was take the over. It's 51.5 right now. I don't think either defense is particularly good, by the way. We know the Lions can move the ball. We know the Rams can move the ball. To me, I'm taking I see this. This could be a 42-35 type game. I think they're just going to run it up. So that would be my best bet from this game. I want to say this about the Rams, and you tell me if I'm wrong. But everyone's like, oh, look out for the Rams. They're rolling right now. Here are the Rams' wins at the end of the season. The Seahawks, the Cardinals. Now, they did crush the Browns, to be fair. They lost to the Ravens in a close game. They beat the Commanders, Saints, Giants, and 49ers in a meaningless game. Not exactly the best and brightest in the NFL. Are we sure the Rams are like the team that nobody wants to play, or did they just beat up on a bunch of bad teams at the end of the year?
I don't think you can ever just scoff at winning 7 of your last 8 games. And the one loss being the number 1 seed in the AFC, who were dominant over the last 2 months. And the only team that scared them over, like, to possibly get close to making them lose as of recent were the Rams. I mean, brought that game to 37-31, and it was a close game pretty much the whole time. So that's impressive to me. Like, I know they lost, but to keep that game when most people are getting their butts kicked by the Ravens, like, that's impressive. And you can't just like be like, oh, well, they beat up on bad teams. The Saints were hot towards the end of the year. They beat them. The Giants just beat the Eagles. Like,
everybody beats the Eagles.
I get it, but like, just to say like, oh, you beat bad teams, they beat them, right? So they are at least not a bad team.
No, I'm not saying they're a bad team. I just, I think that maybe they're a little inflated is all I'm saying.
Well, we know that the bottom of the NFC is not good, right? So when we're comparing who the 49ers could play, the point is, the Rams aren't a dominant team whatsoever. But in terms of the possibilities of who they could play in this round, I do think they're the scariest, especially when you consider the whole aspect of them being a divisional opponent and them knowing each other. I think that makes everything a little bit harder to figure out which way the ball could bounce in this game.
100% agree. I liken the Rams to a boxer with one really good punch, right? A really good, like, right cross. It's like the best right cross. They can't do anything else. They can't move. They don't use their left hand that much. They don't go to the body, but they've got that one right cross. And if they hit you just right, they could knock out anybody. And that's what I feel like the Rams are. JJ00 watching on Twitch says All Pro just announced several Niners robbed. Yeah, we talked about that a little earlier in the show. If you missed it, JJ, so please feel free to go back.
Who is robbed?
I don't know. Maybe he thought Mooney Ward was robbed. I mean, yeah, pretty much everybody made it. So Brock was second team All Pro. A lot of people are saying Brock was robbed.
No, Dak was second team All Pro.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Brock was a few votes short of being second team All Pro. I apologize.
Yeah. He probably, I mean, Dak had a great season as well. I think Dak probably got screwed of not getting first team. I mean, Lamar's just going to get every, right? I don't know. I've never seen a dude with worse stats in my life get all this praise, but he did have an amazing Christmas game and a great game after that. So he finished, I guess all that matters is how you finish the season in your last 2 games.
That's what Brock Purdy told Mark Schlereth. Yep.
Yeah, I guess that's all that matters. And the players need to remember, you can have do nothing for most of the year, but if you finish high, that's all that matters.
James Thomas says Dre Greenlaw gets no love like ever. Shout out Dre. He does get no love. Fred Warner, he gets love from Fred Warner. Fred said there's no Fred Warner without Dre Greenlaw. So, but you're right. I think Dre's arguably the top 3 linebackers in the league, and he never gets any love because 54 steals all the praise. Okay, so that is the NFC side of the wild card playoff picture. We should talk about the AFC side because obviously your Steelers are in it. So we'll start with that. It's Steelers, it's Bills. Buffalo is favored by 7.5 points and no TJ.
They're favored by way more than that. They're favored by 10.
Is it 10 now? When I thought when I looked this morning,
It was always 9.5, and then I went to 10 on FanDuel. I don't know if it's still at 9.5.
Oh, it's 9.5 now. Yeah, no, I apologize for that. My bad. No TJ Watt in this one, right?
Yeah, no
Yeah,
TJ Watt.
Take the Bills. Give the points. I'm sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, the Bills are 7-1 at home this year. The one loss was that Broncos loss. This was a disgusting game. And then they fired their OC after that. But also with Mike Tomlin, they have not been ready for the wild card since, I mean, in any of the last 6 years they've made the playoffs, really. Negative 54-point differential over the last 4 playoff games. Not
Negative
great.
54?
Over the last 4 playoff games. Yeah. They got their butts kicked by the Chiefs a couple years ago in the wild card round. They got their butts kicked by the Browns a couple years, 3 years ago in the wild card round. I don't expect much. Josh Allen is a freaking monster in wild card rounds throughout his career. And then without TJ Watt, I mean, we saw it last year. They allowed nearly 9 more points per game and over 100 more total yards per game without Watt.
I will say, as James Thomas points out, the weather in some of these games is going to be comical. Bills, Steelers, weather. 26 degrees at kickoff, which is fine. Possible snow showers. 25 to 50 mile an hour winds. A 50 mile an hour wind. How do you throw a pass in 50 mile? That's perfect for the Steelers. That plays right into their hands.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen has such a strong arm. He'll be able to get it through some of these wins. But Mason Rudolph actually has a pretty strong arm too. But when it comes to like the running game, yeah, I do feel a little bit better about Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren than I would for the Bills running game. That's what the Steelers are going to need. They're going to need weather to just go on their lucky side there. But yeah, I still don't feel good about it.
It's going to be, can you imagine kicking a field goal in 25 to 50 mile an hour winds? Like, how do you even...
They're not gonna be able to.
Yeah, no, you just have to pray that either the wind stops for those 5 seconds where that ball was in the air, or you just can't kick field goals. Like, that's absurd. 50 miles an hour, you could start the ball outside the damn left upright and you'll miss wide right.
I mean, this game and the Chiefs-Dolphins game is really going to be so random because of the weather being so incredibly bad. And I don't know if I love that for the playoffs. I think that stinks, right? Like, if the Bills are such the better team. So I am going to feel a little bad if the Steelers win. Obviously, I want the Steelers to win so bad, and I'm going to be dying during the game. But like, the Bills are the much better team. And if they just lose because of how disgusting the atmosphere is, that kind of sucks for them.
Let's get to Chiefs Dolphins, excuse me. It is on track to be one of the coldest games ever. The National Weather Service said it's going to be around -8 degrees on Saturday night, and the wind chill could make it feel like -20 to -30 degrees. And I'm sorry, maybe it's me getting soft in my old age. Like, why are we making them play in this? Like, why are we making fans sit through -20 to -30? At least the players have heated seats on the sidelines. They have those jet engine heaters that are so hot that they literally set players on fire sometimes. Like, they have something. If you're a fan, why are you going to this game? Like, it's a health risk to go to this game.
Yeah, and what's unfortunate also is that they've had so many opportunities to go to Chiefs playoff games as of late that they're not dying for this. It's not like it's in Cleveland or if it's in, in a place that they never go to the playoffs. So people are like, oh, we're going to sit through this weather no matter what. These Chiefs fans have seen such victory over the last literally a handful of years that there is no reason to force yourself to go to this game unless you don't have enough money. You haven't been able to go to a Chiefs playoff game. They said ticket prices are plummeting because who wants to go to this game? Those are going to be the only people who are there. The ones that are like, okay, well, this is our chance to go. I would never sit through this game. Watch it on TV. What are you doing?
And I'm throwing up a graphic on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. The Dolphins in games 40 degrees or colder, they're 0 for their last 10. They've scored just 18 points a game with 2.5 turnovers per game in those. It's crazy. I saw a thing online. I think you can get into this game for $38 because nobody wants to go because you could die in the stand. Like, that is kill you weather. -20 to -30 is not weather for human beings to be outside. And I get it. Like, we love to see the gladiators do it, but like, just play it a couple hours earlier in the evening so it's not quite so bitter cold.
It is so wild that the Dolphins went from winning this division pretty easily because they had a 3-game lead to then losing the division and not getting to play, at home in the warmth against the Steelers, and having to play in Kansas City in this cold against the Chiefs. Like, the stakes that they lost there, pretty wild.
By the way, Tua, not good in the cold, 0 for 5 in his 5 coldest starts, 57% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in those games. The Dolphins are just 1-5 against playoff teams, and they've been outscored by 91 points in those games. So just saying, that's not exactly ideal. I like this comment from James, who says, these games make you realize how important that number 1 seed is. Yeah, the Dolphins and Chiefs are going to be playing in freezing cold. The other teams are going to be out there in all sorts of crazy games. The Niners just put their hands behind their head, put your feet up, and watch all those people just battle it out.
I do think it's so weird. Now, I'm just sitting here thinking of this. Maybe it's because I'm a mimosa deep, that we just have such an inconsistency in the NFL across so many things, right? We won't even get into roughing, but the stadiums, how some people play in the outside and it can be freezing cold and windy and rainy, and some teams play in a dome. And I know you get to, you build those stadiums as a team, as a city, but it's so weird to me that everyone doesn't have to play in the same type of atmosphere.
Hey, I think you can use it to your advantage. The Vikings, when they played outside, made 4 Super Bowls. Since they've built a dome, they haven't made any. Because you know why? It was friggin' hard to go to Minnesota in the winter and play a football game. It does matter. If you can get used to it and you can get used to those elements, it's a real thing. I will never forget going to Minnesota for the Super Bowl. And I texted a friend of mine and I was like, hey, I'm going to Minnesota. Maybe we could meet up. And she said, bring a scarf. And I texted back, okay. And then her message continued, for your face. And I was like, whatever. And then I got there and I went outside. And you know how when you stay outside in the cold for a while, like your skin starts to hurt? It felt like that the second you went outdoors. And all I could think of was, my God, I wish I had a scarf for my face right now. It's that cold.
I went to Minnesota a few winters ago. It's miserable. And it lasts forever. Why would anybody want to live in Minnesota? I do not know.
It's brutal, man. It is unbelievable. So it's a real thing. And, look, I have so much more confidence in Patrick Mahomes to overcome that stuff and just thrive in that adversity than I do Mike McDaniel or Tua or anybody. I think the Chiefs are winning. I'm taking the Chiefs in that game. I feel pretty confident. They're favored by 4.5, I think, which I don't love that. I don't know that they're going to blow Miami out, but I would take the Chiefs money line for sure.
I do. I think they win by 4.5. I mean, the Dolphins lost by 7+ points in 4 of their last 6 road games. The 2 they didn't. They won against the Jets and the Commanders. Good for them.
Ooh.
But got their butts kicked by the Bills. Got their butts kicked by the Eagles. Lost by 7 to the Chiefs. That was in Germany, not in Kansas City. And then lost by 37 points to the Ravens.
And the last playoff game that we didn't talk about is actually the first one, and it's the most 49ers related because DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans are going to host the Cleveland Browns and 49ers torturer Joe Flacco. I give the Texans a puncher's chance in this game.
You give the Texans a puncher's chance?
Yes.
I think they win. I'm not even giving them. I just think they win. The Browns, home and away, are completely different defenses. I feel like everyone's like, "Oh, this Browns defense is so good." The Browns defense away this year. Guess how many points they allowed per game away?
20?
30.
Oof.
29.6 points per game, and there are 8 away games. They're not nearly the same defense. And do you want to hear the quarterbacks they played on the road this year? Because you might say, well, maybe they played super hard teams on the road and not at home. No, these are the quarterbacks they played on the road this year. Kenny Pickett, Gardner Minshew, Geno Smith, Lamar Jackson, give him that. Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, give him that. Case Keenum and Jake Browning. Those are the quarterbacks. And they allowed 29 0.6 points per game. They allow nearly 2 passing touchdowns per game on the road this year. That's why I love Stroud over 1.5 passing touchdowns. But they're not the same defense on the road as they are at home. I'm not worried about it. The Browns on the road lost by 17 points in 3 of their last 4 road games. Now, one of those are week 18 did not play their starters. Throw that out, fine. They lost by 17 points on 2 of their last 3 home games. They did win by 14 points in Houston just a few weeks ago. That was with Case Keenum and Davis Mills playing quarterback. That's a totally different team.
Here's why I said the Texans had a fighting chance, because I didn't know those stats about the Browns defense on the road. So that does change my thinking. But the Browns led the league in giveaways. They had 37 giveaways this year. Joe Flacco himself has had 8 interceptions in 5 games. He's giving the ball to the other team. Now, he's also scoring a lot of touchdowns, and that's helping balance it out. But if you keep giving the ball to the other team, especially in a playoff game, you can lose to anybody. I don't know that he's going to be able to continue this streak of turning the ball over as much as he has and still winning. So when you're playing against the team that has his quarterback as good as CJ Stroud, a coach who I think is pretty good in DeMeco Ryans, and you give the ball away, that's a rough combination. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm rooting for DeMeco Ryans. Just, I got a soft spot for him. Plus, I wouldn't really be afraid of having to play the Texans in the Super Bowl if it came to it. So sure, Houston, go ahead and win. But I hope he does well. But it's going to be tough for them. But this is all house money if you're the Texans. So enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm definitely rooting for the Texans. And with Joe Flacco, you said it perfectly. He leads the league in passing touchdowns since becoming the starter in week 13. He also leads the league in interceptions, though. He can't be throwing these interceptions in this game. I will say the one thing that the Browns do have over the Texans is, especially with Joe Flacco versus CJ Stroud, is that experience. And it does seem like playoff experience matters so much, right? We've seen so many times these quarterbacks go into their first playoff game kind of just fall on their face. It's their first time. It's a totally different experience. They're not completely ready for it. Joe Flacco has so much playoff experience.
Yeah.
And we've even seen him have really nice playoff games. We've seen him have crazy playoff runs when they won that Super Bowl.
We've
crazy
seen Michelle. Thank you for bringing it up.
Listen, I'm not happy either. He was with the Ravens, all right? My least favorite team ever. So when you think of Joe Flacco versus CJ Stroud, that's where it can come down to, the inexperience versus the experience. Plus, the Texans team just overall is pretty young.
How many playoff games do you think Joe Flacco has played in his career?
At least 12.
15. Joe Flacco is 10-5 in the playoffs in his career. 15. That's basically like a whole season of experience just in the playoffs. That does matter. Every former player that you talk to, everyone says it's just different in the playoffs, that there is a level of focus and intensity that is just not there in the regular season. And Flacco has it. And Flacco, like, as Heinman says here on Twitch, he's playing YOLO ball. Like, he kind of is. He's not going to get rattled. He's coming off his couch like 5 days ago. I think he's just like, screw it. Amari Cooper down there somewhere. I'll just chuck this thing up and let it go. So, like, he ain't going to be rattled. He's going to go out there calm and stress-free. So it's going to be fun. Every playoff game, I think, this weekend is going to be so much fun. I'm so excited to watch all these games. Stupid Peacock has Chiefs and Dolphins. That's very frustrating.
Yeah, it doesn't have to worry for me. I don't know, but I know it does frustrate a lot of people. But I didn't want, so at the end of that conversation for Browns and Texans, are you taking the Browns 3-point favorites?
Oh, well, I was until you said that thing about their defense, and now I don't know. I would probably stay away from it now, knowing what you said. But if you're making me put my money down, I'll take the Browns.
Cool. I'll take the Texans, but I will take the 3 points. So I'm not going to take the money line here. I'll take the Texans +3.
All right, there you go. So that is the situation. Hope you enjoyed the little playoff preview that we have provided for you. I did see one comment I wanted to respond to. Aaron Rodriguez says, how did you guys do on your season win predictions? We both nailed it. We both had the 49ers going 12-5. And since we both agreed on the final game of the year, it's tied right now. I forgot what we said we were going to do for the tiebreaker.
Well, we were supposed to say these game picks.
Oh boy.
and then write them down. Should we run through the game picks real fast and you can write them down?
Okay.
All
You
right.
go through
So
your.
you're taking Browns -3. I'm taking Texans +3.
Okay.
And then I think we're both taking the Bills
Yep.
+9 or -9.5.
Yep.
And what are you doing for this Dolphins Chiefs game? They're I have them as 4 points, but you said 4.5.
I took the Chiefs, but I took the Chiefs money line. I don't know that they'll cover the spread, so I guess I'll take Miami plus the 4.5.
Okay, I'm gonna take Chiefs -4.5.
Okay.
And then what are we doing for this Packers Cowboys? Cowboys are favored by 7.5.
I'm taking Dallas and giving the points.
I'm taking Packers +7.5. I think the Cowboys win, but Packers cover
You
7.5.
want the points, all right?
And then the Rams Lions. Lions are favored by 3 points.
I'll take the Rams because they're getting the points. So Rams +3 for me.
Oh my goodness. This is the hardest one of the week. I'll take Detroit -3.
See, you want to be different. Okay. And then is there one more game?
Yeah, Eagles, Buccaneers. Eagles are favored by 3. And I'm taking Buccaneers +3 for sure.
Yeah, I think I am too. I'm getting points. I think Tampa could easily win the game. Okay. So we disagree on Lions, Rams. We disagree on Cowboys, Packers. We disagree on Chiefs, Dolphins. And we disagree on Cleveland, Houston. So we will have a definite winner at the end of this first round. If I win, Michelle has to buy and wear a Juwan Jennings jersey. If Michelle wins, I have to buy and wear a Sam Darnold jersey. So those are the stakes that we made before the year began. And we'll see how it all works out. Thank you, everybody, for hopping into the show. We really appreciate it. We always appreciate your support. As I tweeted out yesterday, we went over 2 million views for the YouTube channel this season, which is incredible because we didn't start it until last January. We hit 1 million views in October. We hit 2 million views in January. So it took us 9 months to get 1 million views. It took us 3 months to get another 1 million views. So thank you so much for the support. And thank you, Michelle, for all your hard work. I could not do this without you and all the incredible hosts that we have here at the Gold Standard Network.
Woo woo. And I wanted to cheers to you, but I'm pretty much out for your birthday yesterday. Happy 39th birthday to Stats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God. As my mother texted me yesterday, 1 more year to call yourself young.
Yep. Yeah. Once you're 40, you're definitely old, but we'll give you 1 more year.
Okay. Well, if I got hired as an NFL head coach, they would say I was young.
True.
Gerard Mayo, by the way, just got hired. I think he's like 37.
Mm-hmm.
Man, these coaches are getting younger and younger. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Remember, Levin and I are going to do a show on Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, an instant reaction show based on what happens in the wild card round. We may know who the 49ers are playing. So please join us for that. We will be live on the channel. We're not going dark or anything this weekend. So just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click the little bell so you get notified every single time we go live. Michelle, I hope you have a fantastic Friday and a great weekend, and good luck to your Steelers.
Woo woo. Yeah, let's hope the Steelers don't get their booties kicked. Have a fun weekend watching football, everybody. Bye, y'all.